In the heart of a village called Uzuri, there lived a woman whose name was whispered with a mixture of admiration and scandal. Nia, with her ebony skin and eyes like the depths of the Nile, was a beauty that stirred the hearts of men and sparked envy in the souls of women. She was a woman whose presence seemed to connect with the earth's heartbeat. The rich mahogany color of her skin drank in the golden sunlight, making her look warm and healthy. Her deep obsidian eyes held the secrets of many generations and showed the wisdom of ancestors who had died a long time ago. Aside from being as beautiful as she had the wisdom of elders. Nia was stunningly beautiful from the moment she became a woman. The way she moved was like the wind. Her steps were like a dance that made everyone in the village feel alive. Her every move and gesture seemed to carry the sound of old rhythms, as if she were talking to the land's spirits. Some of the villagers say that she was their goddess's reincarnation. Some say she was just highly favored by the goddess herself. People of Uzuri were drawn to Nia not only because of how beautiful she was, but also because of her wild spirit. She wasn't tied down by social norms and roamed the village like a free bird. Her laughter echoed through the village like the song of the savannah. Old and young men and women were all drawn to her. Kids liked being with her. A lot of men wanted her to notice them, and most of them wanted her to be their wife. Lots of women wanted to be her friend. Nia's presence was like a breath of fresh air as she walked through the dusty streets of Uzuri. She brought life to the dull routines of daily life. Both men and women were drawn to her because of her inspiring energy and love of life. But when she grew old enough to have a man, Nia faced challenges. She had difficulty being happy with just one person. When she noticed how hard it was for her to get someone to marry, Nia went to the oracle to ask for advice. She got to the woman's heart and was welcomed in. The woman told her that she had been expecting her. She told her that she would face hurdles and obstacles in the process of looking for a man for herself, but she would eventually find a man who would love her as his. In a search for the perfect man, Nia opened herself to courting as many men came her way, and she was desperate to find a man for herself. She was an orphan who had been lonely for the longest time. The first man she courted was a farmer. She enjoyed the first 3 months of being with him, but the man became very aggressive and bitter towards her because of how much attention she was always getting. She was loyal and ready to settle down, but at that point, she saw how badly he had treated her, and she had no choice but to leave him. From then on, Nia made a promise to herself not to settle for less. The second man she decided to court was a hunter. The man was a nice and kind man, but he was quick to anger. Nia felt this was normal and tried to endure the treatment from the man, but it just didn't work out. Nia was tired of going back and forth. People were beginning to spread awful rumors about her. People distanced themselves from her. Her friends stopped talking to her. Their reason was that she was bad luck and was going to transfer her bad luck to them. This was hard for Nia. She was pretty enough, and it really didn't make any sense for her not to have gotten a husband for herself at this point in her life. Whispers followed her, moving around like dust devils in the late evening. Everyone wanted to know the details of her life. The villagers were interested, amused, and even angry about Nias' adventures. Some people praised her for being brave enough to break the rules of society, while others criticized her for questioning the sacredness of marriage and loyalty. Some loved that she was able to stand for what she wanted. They loved her from a distance and respected her for leaving these men when they turned out to be awful. Some hated her for this courage, and some hated her for not following the rules of society. In a gathering of women under one of the oak trees in the village, one of the wise old women in the village whispered to her friends as they gathered, "It's not natural, I tell you. A woman should know her place, not gallivanting around like a wild animal. Who gave her the courage and boldness of a lioness?" They hated her guts, but this didn't move Nia. She trusted the words of the oracle and was ready to go any length to get what she wanted. Aside from being a courageous woman, she was fearless and would make sure to get whatever she had her mind on. One of the younger people in the village asked, "But isn't there something admirable about her freedom? To live without fear of judgment, to follow the desires of her heart wherever they may lead?" The old woman shook her head and made a hard line with her lips. "Child, you have to be responsible for your freedom. Nia's actions make our village look bad and make our traditions less holy. She defiles herself in the course of looking for the perfect man for her. Even the most beautiful woman sometimes has to know that she can't have it all." In the meantime, at the village well, a group of men huddled together and talked quietly about the latest rumor about Nia. One man whispered, "I heard she's taken another lover." He looked over his shoulder to make sure no one was listening. Another person laughed and said, "But who can blame them?" His eyes were shining with mischief. With a beauty like hers, who could resist? The man didn't mind how many men she had been with, and everyone wanted to at least talk to her. The men who had been with her were seen as one of the lucky ones, but this wasn't enough for Nia. There was a third man who shook his head no. "I tell you, it's not right. When a woman gets married, she should stay with her husband and not jump from one man to the next like a butterfly. She thinks that because she's a beauty, she can do whatever she pleases with us men." But despite all the talk and guessing, there was one man, Kofi, whose love for Nia would never waver. He could see past the whispers and the judgment and see Nia's wild spirit burning inside her. Her shoulders were as broad as the tall oak trees, and her heart was as soft as the evening breeze. Kofi was new to the village. He was a farmer and had farms in several villages, so he decided to leave his former village and live in Ani. The moment he entered Uzuri, he knew this village was the one for him. After 2 months of staying in this village, he learns about a woman named Nia. He had seen her just once in the village meeting. She was often alone. Everyone had one thing or the other to say about this woman, and he wanted to know everything he could before deciding to do anything. In the meeting, one man told the villagers that Nia was a disgrace to womanhood, but he stood up for her and almost caused a fight. As he left the meeting, Kofi could feel the judgmental looks on him as he walked through the village, but he didn't care, because in Nia he saw a woman whose fire and passion were the same as his own. Even though the other people in the village might talk about her and even judge her, he was ready to learn everything about this woman and see if she could be the woman of his dreams. Kofi needed to know this woman better and decided to start asking everyone who was ready to say what they knew about her. Kofi got advice from other men that Nia would not marry him. They told him he wasn't going to get a chance at being her husband because he was a better man. They also added that even if she eventually married him, their marriage would not last, but he didn't pay any mind to them. In the course of finding out more about her, he got to know how unhappy she really was. He understood why she was always jumping from one man to the other. He asked one of the women who used to be her friend about her one calm evening. The woman told him that everyone thinks Nia is a slut who moves from one man to the other, but she knows what she wants. The men she courted, like she would always tell us, were mean and arrogant to her. They were drawn to her by her beauty, and at one point they could not take her intelligence anymore. They started being wicked and violent towards her. She told him everyone knew how intelligent Nia was. She was a great envy, even among older women. This woman told Kofi that men couldn't handle how intelligent she was, and to force her to succumb, they beat her and abused her in every way possible. She told him so many things. She told him one of the bitter experiences Nia faced. One of the men had beaten her so that she fainted and was unconscious for a week. This was when Nia decided to stop dating these men and even gave up on being with anyone. Kofi knew it wouldn't be an easy task to win Nia's love and attention, but he decided to give it a try. Kofi studied Nia and her daily activities, and gradually he became her friend. But Nia wasn't ready to give any man her heart. Nia first saw Kofi in the market when he was attending to his customers. She went to buy foodstuff in the market and she saw him. She had so many experiences with men, and this man seemed different. She couldn't explain how she knew this, but she knew it. But she was drawn back because of what she had faced and experienced at the hands of men. She didn't want to get her heart broken, and she was also ready to get married. She didn't want to make a deadly and costly life mistake. She then decided not to push this further. Nia then started noticing how Kofi was asking about her around. She didn't have so many friends anymore, but she knew things. She just could tell when something was happening. Kofi, after studying her for the longest time, decided to meet her one day to ask for an audience. Nia turned him down, but Kofi wasn't willing to give up on her. Kofi would send her letters and one gift or the other every morning. One day turned to 3. 3 days turned to a week. 1 week turned to 3 weeks. 3 weeks turned to a month, and 1 month turned to 3 months. Nia, on the last day of the 3rd month, felt he was going to get tired and decided to burn all his letters and even gifts that he had been sending the 2nd day. But Kofi surprised her. He still kept sending it, and after a week, she decided to write back to him. She asked him to meet at the village meeting point. Kofi was excited when he got a letter from her. He wanted to show her how much he loved her and how much he was willing to go to get her to talk to him, and this finally worked. She wanted to talk to him. This was the happiest day of his life, he thought to himself. As soon as he got her letter, he read it and immediately sent her another, telling her how much he was happy to hear from her. He also agreed to meet her when she wanted. They met 2 weeks after this day. Nia saw this man and immediately fell in love. She thought to herself that it had been so long since she had felt this way with any man. They talked from morning to night and even met every day to talk for a full week. They got to know each other better. They decided not to waste time courting and decided to marry instead. Nia was scared, but she was willing to give love another chance. Kofi was ready to risk everything for this woman. He was ready to leave this town if she wanted to. He was even ready to give her everything he owned if she wanted it. As the wedding day of Nia and Kofi got closer, the village of Uzuri felt like it was in a fever dream. The most beautiful woman had finally decided to marry a man and not court him first. The dusty streets were full of whispers that carried the weight of doubt and criticism. Some people laughed at the idea of Nia getting married because they thought her wild spirit could never be tamed. Others said things behind closed doors that made Kofi doubt his choice to marry a woman who was known for doing strange things. Nia and Kofi had to deal with their own problems while people were skeptical and had doubts. In the still hours before dawn, when everyone in the village was sound asleep, doubts crept into their minds like shadows in the dark. They wondered if their love was strong enough to get them through the hard times ahead, and if they could really connect with each other and find things they had in common. Suppose Nia could really marry this man without leaving him after a few months. They didn't want to believe that Nia could get someone she would see as perfect. As they sat under the spreading branches of an oak tree one evening, they could feel the weight of doubt in the air. Nia's eyes, which are usually full of mischief and laughter, were clouded with doubt, and Kofi's face was drawn and upset. Nia was waiting for Kofi at the end of the village, under the big branches of an oak tree. Her eyes were glowing with love and warmth. They had decided to meet there instead of their homes till they got married. Nia began talking. She whispered, "Kofi," and reached out to grab his hand. "Do you believe the rumors they spread about me?" Kofi shook his head and met her gaze with a steady look. "Nia, I believe you. I see the woman you really are, not what other people say or think about you. I want you for everything you are." Kofi was determined to make this intelligent woman his. "Do you truly believe we can make this work, Kofi?" Nia answered, and her voice was hard to make out over the sound of the leaves blowing in the wind. She was scared he would say he didn't love her anymore. But Kofi reached out to take her hand. His touch was like a rock in a storm of uncertainty. "I believe in us, Nia," he said in a quiet voice. "I believe in the strength of our love to overcome any obstacle that stands in our way." He believed in the love he had for her, and no one or nothing could talk him out of loving this woman. The villagers called Kofi to a meeting one day and told him that he was making a bad decision to marry Nia. Others in the village who couldn't confront them tried to start fights between them. They whispered in Kofi's ear that marrying a woman like Nia, whose reputation was ruined by scandal and rumors, would be bad for him. Some of the male elders called him one day and said, "You are a good man, Kofi," with worry in their voices. "But Nia is a wild animal that can be tamed and is hard to predict. Before you tie yourself to her, you should give it some thought." But Kofi had his mind made up already. The wedding was just a week away, and they had planned not to do anything big or call anyone to their consummation ceremony. Their love was like a storm, furious and wild, but it was based on mutual respect and understanding, which made it strong. Everyone in the village held their breath. when they heard how Nia finally agreed to marry him. Nia stood next to Kofi on their wedding day as the sun went down, turning the sky a fiery red and gold. She smiled through her hand clasped in his, lighting up the night. But Kofi's love for Nia didn't change. His faith didn't waver, even when he had doubts and fears, because he saw through the rumors and gossip and knew what the woman he loved was really like. And on the night of their wedding, as the sun went down and the village celebrated, Nia stood next to Kofi with a smile that lit up the sky. Nia found a love that was the same as hers in Kofi. It was a love that let her be wild and free, while also anchoring her in the warmth of his embrace. As they danced under the stars, their love turned into a story that would last forever and show how beautiful the human heart can be. Weeks turned to months and months to a year. The villagers started having faith in her marriage. They saw how happy she was, and her story was known both in and outside the village. They saw her as the woman who, despite all odds, found her perfect man.